Have you ever wondered how consultants make beautiful slides in no time? We show you the top 12 topics you need to know about so your PowerPoint skills will rival those of a McKinsey consultant. Check out the whole video or simply navigate to the section you're interested in with the timestamps. Before we start, note that we're working on a Windows computer and use only shortcuts native to PowerPoint. No plugins required. We'll only show you what you absolutely need to know so that you can become significantly faster and more effective in PowerPoint. If you're interested in other topics such as slide design and storytelling, subscribe and stay tuned. And now, let's go! To be efficient in PowerPoint, we first need to make sure that we have our tools ready. For that, we're going to use the Quick Access Toolbar, where we have all the commands that we use most frequently always in sight. To set it up, we navigate to File, then Options down here, and then the Quick Access Toolbar. The right-hand side has all the commands that will be in the Quick Access Toolbar, which is currently empty. And on the left, there are all the commands that you can put in there. Actually, right now it only shows the most popular commands, but we'll go in the drop-down, select All Commands, and then we see all. And from there, I can simply select one, click Add, and it's shown on the right. Let's click OK, and you see that the command we just selected is now shown in here, which is your Quick Access Toolbar. To make it even more prominent, let's go back in the options and tick this box below, which will display the Quick Access Toolbar under the ribbon, so you'll always have it in sight. Great. Now let me go back and select the most useful commands and also put them in the right order with the arrows here. Perfect. Now your toolbar may look different, but this works quite well for us. That's the align commands, the format painter, saving, undo, redo, move to front, send to back, and adding a text box. You can simply add what you find yourself using most frequently. Some of these commands have a dedicated shortcut, like these. Others don't have direct shortcuts, but we can still access them indirectly with the Alt keys. For example, pressing Alt and then 1 will align objects left. Regardless of whether you're using shortcuts or the mouse, it's good to have these commands at your fingertips as you'll be using them often. Don't come to the PowerPoint battle unprepared. One of the key difference makers is using a good slide master. If you're simply using the default PowerPoint master, you already lost. It looks awful. It looks like we're back in 2005 again. If you want your slides to look professional, you definitely need a good slide master, especially to maintain some level of consistency once you produce multiple slides. We have an entire video on this that will help you quickly build a basic master that looks super professional. Alright, let's work with objects. Objects are all the things that you can use on a slide, like a text box, a shape, or a picture. Obviously, we're starting super simple here. Everyone knows how to move around one object, but you often need to select several objects to do something with them. You can do that by dragging the mouse over the objects while holding down the left mouse button. Or you simply click on the objects while pressing the Shift key. You can also combine that and add to the selection. And you can unselect individual objects by clicking on them again, or by dragging a frame over them with the mouse, all while holding down the Shift key. You can also select everything on a slide by pressing Ctrl A. But watch out, you might also select a title, but then you simply press Shift and click on it to unselect. Now the oldest trick in the book, copy, paste. Again, super basic, but probably the single most used shortcut. Once you selected the object you want to copy, press Ctrl C, and then paste it by pressing Ctrl V. This works on individual objects, but also on multiple objects, as well as on text and entire slides. One alternative to this is Ctrl D, which simply duplicates whatever you had selected. Or you just drag the object with your mouse while holding down the Ctrl key. You simply drop it where you want it, and this will also create a copy. Instead of simply pasting an object, you can also do a special paste. That's useful if you copy from a source that's different from a destination. For example, if I have a text from this source, I can copy it and special paste, which is Ctrl-Alt-V. And here I can paste it as formatted text so it maintains its original formatting, or I paste it as unformatted text so that it assumes the formatting of the destination. This logic is super useful if you have to copy a slide across presentations with different masters. If you paste it using the destination theme, it gets converted to the new master. Or you say use source formatting, then the slide maintains its original formatting and even brings its original slide master into your presentation. Special paste has a few applications and you can play around with it. One thing we often use it for is to copy a slide and paste it as a picture on another slide. One thing you might have heard about junior consultants is that they're slaving their life away aligning boxes on a slide. And it's true, you just can't have a messy slide. But the simple act of keeping things aligned makes it already that much more professional. So it's important that when you move something, you're able to move it in a straight line without losing alignment. For that, the snapping options in PowerPoint will already help a lot. You see these dashed gray lines and the red arrows, they'll help you stay aligned. PowerPoint will look for the edges or the center of objects or of the entire slide and gently force your objects into alignment. Sometimes though, it doesn't work right, or there are so many objects on your slide that it's snapping to the wrong edge. Then you can still move an object in a perfectly horizontal or vertical line simply by pressing Shift while you drag it. The same works if you want to draw a straight line. You see it all the time, lines that aren't perfectly straight, but just a little bit off. Now, if you need to be perfectly horizontal or vertical, draw the line while pressing Shift. This is also useful for rotating objects. You can rotate it by grabbing it here, but if you keep the Shift key pressed, it will only rotate in 15-degree increments. That's super useful if you have to ensure something is turned by exactly 90 degrees. You can override any snapping options by pressing the Alt button. And sometimes you may even want to combine Shift and Alt. Let's say I want to move this arrow object very close to the wall object, but without them touching. Now, pressing Shift ensures that I still move the arrow in a straight line, and pressing Alt ensures that my arrow still doesn't snap to the wall object. Now that we know how to copy and how to move something in a straight line, let's combine those two. Remember, if we drag an object and press Ctrl, we can copy it. And if we now also press Shift at the same time, we can move the copy in a perfectly horizontal or vertical line. This is something we use all the time to ensure everything is aligned. Especially whenever there's something to be built in a grid-like fashion. We always copy it in that way. Interestingly, at McKinsey, we'd never use a classic PowerPoint table. We'd always build a grid of individual text boxes and lines, simply because it looks better and you're more flexible. To do that though, you definitely have to have these alignments under control. But with that shortcut, it's super easy to add a column or to add a new line and to make sure it's all aligned. One bonus tip here is the use of the F4 button. The F4 button simply repeats your last action. If you copied some objects a certain distance to the right, the F4 button will make another copy and shift it to the right by the exact same distance. The same if you copy downwards, adding a new line. With these commands you can create nicely aligned slides from scratch in no time. Okay, now that we've gotten so good at copying, let's copy something else. Let's copy the formatting. We can always use the paintbrush to copy the formatting of one object and then paste it onto another object by clicking on it. Affected by this is primarily the fill color, any formatting of the line, any shape effects like shadows, and the font. And if you double-click on the paintbrush, you can keep on pasting the formatting to other objects. Now, the paintbrush will do a fine job. But if you're one of those people that would like to squeeze out that last millisecond, make those final efficiency gains to dominate the competition, this is for you. Ctrl-Shift-C, Ctrl-Shift-V. You're welcome. Now that we know how to move around an object, let's check how to change its size. Obviously, we can grab an object by its edge and change dimensions, vertically, horizontally, or both at the same time if we grab it by the corner. The shapes will again snap to any edges, which you can override with the Alt key. Now here are two tricks. First, if you hold down the Control key while you drag, the object will stay centered. That's useful if you need to ensure that the object remains in the same location, but you just need to change the size, horizontally, vertically, or both. Second, if you hold down the Shift key while you drag the corner, not the edge, the object will maintain its dimensions. Now you're changing both the horizontal and vertical size by the same proportion. And then you can combine those two tricks. Holding down Ctrl and Shift while dragging ensures that your object maintains its position while changing its size proportionally. So the aspect ratio of your object will stay exactly the same. You can do all this with the arrow keys as well. Pressing up or down while holding Shift will increase or decrease the object's height, and pressing right or left while holding Shift will increase or decrease the object's width. And all of this while maintaining the object's centered position. Pressing Ctrl on top of Shift will also change the object's size, but in a more fine-grained way. Now, instead of just resizing existing objects, you can also use Shift and Ctrl when drawing new objects. Pressing Shift while drawing the object makes sure that its aspect ratio stays locked. An example where that's useful is if you need to draw a perfect circle without having to go into the sizing here. Pressing Ctrl while drawing an object makes sure that the object's center will be exactly where you started drawing. And pressing Shift and Ctrl while drawing an object makes sure that the object has a fixed aspect ratio while also being centered where you want it to be. Another extremely important function is the group function. You can select multiple objects and click Group. Or simply press Ctrl-G and they'll be grouped together. Now they behave as if they're all one object. You can move them around, copy and paste them, and you can also change the dimensions with all the Shift and Control options we talked about earlier. And once you're done, you can simply press Ctrl-Shift-G to ungroup them. There are many scenarios in which the group function comes in handy, but let's give a practical example. Imagine you draw a table with text boxes and lines. You use good practice and make sure they're all perfectly aligned with equal spacing between all the rows and columns. Now you realize that you need to add some rows and columns. Adding the columns is easy in that case, so you do that. And if you now group the lines, you can simply resize them all equally at the same time so they have the correct length. But the new rows obviously won't fit on the slide, so you need to change the font size. And realigning everything now has just become a nightmare. But if you group everything, you can easily resize the entire group and change the font to an appropriate size so that you have more space on the slide. Now you simply ungroup everything and copy the rows as you need them, and you won't have any alignment issues. You can also make multi-level groups. Let's say I create a reporting template, and as part of this reporting template, I want to create a little traffic light. I create this out of individual objects, which I then group. That's the first layer of grouping. And with that, I can easily resize this traffic light. And then I can group the entire row, including the traffic light, so the traffic light group becomes part of the higher level group. That way I can distribute the rows evenly and make sure everything is aligned. And now I can also add a third layer and group the entire table, and resize it if I need to. Sometimes when building a slide, we realize that the shapes we used weren't ideal, and so we'd like to change them. But instead of recreating everything and making sure all the formatting of the shape is correct, we can simply select the shape and change it. We do that by clicking Edit Shape and then Change Shape. And then we select one that better suits our needs. Let's say I build a slide and instead of a verbal assessment for the progress, I'd like to change this text box into a colored ball to indicate the status. Then I simply color the text box the way I want it, delete the text, and then change the shape to a ball. Now I just make sure that the ball is round, and there we go. We have a different progress indicator, which is, however, still perfectly aligned. A special case is when you have to make a completely custom shape. If I right-click on an object and then select Edit Points, I can change the shape in whatever way I like. You can add points, delete points, and move them around, and change the angle of any line. Now, you rarely ever have to do that, but it's great to know that you have full flexibility. For example, you may want to do that when you build a custom title page. Now that we know everything about shapes and objects, let's talk about how to efficiently format text. There are many things you can do, but the most important ones are to change the font size, change the style, and to align text within the text box. To increase or decrease the font size, we don't have to use the commands in the ribbon. We can simply press Ctrl, Shift, and the smaller than key, or Ctrl, Shift, and comma. This depends a little bit on the keyboard layout that's prevalent in your country. Most importantly, you need to know that this shortcut exists, and if it doesn't work for you, simply look it up. There is one that will work for you. And you can increase the font size by pressing Ctrl, Shift, and the greater than key. When changing the font style, we can simply click Ctrl B for bolding, Ctrl U for underlining, and Ctrl I for italic. Again, there may be country-specific deviations. Now, changing the font size and the font style works on the entire text box, but also on selected text, such as individual words or passages. For alignment, we can simply click Ctrl E for centering text, Ctrl R for right-aligned text, and Ctrl L for left-aligned text. One cool bonus tip is the Shift F3 shortcut. Selecting a text box or text and then pressing Shift F3 will toggle between all lowercase letters, all uppercase letters, or simply capitalizing the first letter and making the rest lowercase. Alright, now that we know the most useful shortcuts for formatting text, let's look at the most useful shortcuts when navigating within the text box. Let's look at the text right here. What can we do here? If we don't want to use a mouse or the touchpad of a laptop, we can of course navigate with the arrow keys. But that's pretty slow. So instead we can jump around. With Ctrl and then arrow left, we can jump backwards one word. And with Ctrl arrow right, we can jump forward a word. By pressing Ctrl arrow down, we can jump down a paragraph, and with Ctrl arrow up, we can jump up a paragraph. Now, for selecting text, we can simply press the Shift button and then use the arrow keys. Shift right will select characters to the right. Shift left will unselect characters, or even select characters to the left. You can also hold down the keys and then PowerPoint will keep adding to the selection. Now we can again combine Shift and Ctrl and select entire words. Pressing Ctrl ensures that we capture an entire word, pressing Shift will do the selecting. So Ctrl, Shift and right arrow will select one word to the right. The logic is exactly the same as with individual characters, but just with individual words. Ctrl, Shift left will unselect words or start selecting to the left. You can select an entire line by pressing Shift down. This will select everything from where you are right now to the same position one line down. And Shift up is the opposite. Select from where you are right now to one line above. Pressing Ctrl, Shift and down arrow selects the remainder of the entire paragraph. Ctrl, Shift up selects upwards to the beginning of the paragraph. and Ctrl A will select everything. Now, those are the most important ones, and once you've gotten used to them, you'll never want to go without them. But there's one super useful bonus tip, which allows you to easily rearrange paragraphs or bullets. Simply go into a paragraph or a bullet, and then press Alt-Shift-Up arrow to move it upwards, and Alt-Shift-Down arrow to move it downwards. And there you have it. This was a crash course in how to work efficiently with PowerPoint. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and activate the bell for more content like this. Let us know in the comments below if you have any questions or if there's a topic you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.